The European Union has clocked 40 years in Malawi. Since 1976, the EU has helped Malawi in different ways. But today, is the EU satisfied with what it sees in Malawi, considering that it has poured in 2 billion euros? My guest in Insight today is EU Ambassador to Malawi, Marcel Gerrmann, who discusses with me this particular issue and generally EU's existence in Malawi. I'm your usual host, Teresa Temwekandanga. Let's begin by the 40 years in Malawi for the EU. Would you just give me the general view? How has it been for you?
Well, I think 40 years is a long time. There's a long-standing relationship with Malawi. I think the relationship with Malawi is strong. We started in 1976 with the Lome Convention, which is actually the official agreement that was ratified in your parliament, in the old parliament building in Zomba in 1976. So we celebrated that in last April in Zomba in the old parliament building. 40 years is a long time, and we started a relationship basically on development cooperation. That was our EU made a commitment to help Malawi, support the population. That was basically support Malawi, the country. And we have invested quite a bit in Malawi, and I'll come to that in a minute. But the relationship has evolved over the last years, in particular the last decade. The political component has become more important. The economic and the trade and investment components have become more important. And even now we are discussing issues like climate change, like regional security, regional stability. So the relationship really has broadened. In those 40 years, we have invested about 2 billion euro in Malawi, and I believe we have achieved quite a bit in terms of results. We have helped building the infrastructure, many roads, the main roads, but also a lot of the rural roads are being basically the product of our relationship between Malawi and the EU. There's many people in Malawi that have access to safe drinking water because of our programs. And the other day I met this lady in Blantyre, and she explained to me that in the past that she had to walk for 1.5 hours to get water for herself and her family. And it was a very difficult situation because mostly she had to collect the water at night. And now with our support there has been a water point where she basically can walk 2 minutes to collect water for her family. And she basically said, that it made her feel so much safer also, and that her children are not becoming sick anymore from the quality of the water. So these are very concrete examples where we have, I think, made quite a bit of a contribution.
And when you talk of 2 billion euros, I'm like, that is a lot of money. Would you say you are really satisfied with what you see currently in Malawi? Yes, there is the impact, there are these stories, but would you say you're really satisfied with what you see?
No, we're not satisfied. We are not, I see that we have achieved results, but at the same time I see that Malawi is facing quite a bit of challenges. And of course, it begs the question, why haven't we achieved more after 40 years? And that's a very important question. It's also a very difficult question because there are many factors at play. And then development cooperation, and then the European Union development cooperation is only one part of that, not even the biggest part. So it's a difficult question. I don't pretend that we have all the answers, but it's clear that there are factors that are influencing the situation, like for instance population growth. Right now population growth is around 3%. Population growing by 500,000 Malawians every year. That needs to be fed, that needs to have access to public services. That's not sustainable. There will be 30 million Malawians in 2030. So how is Malawi going to cater for those people? That's one. Secondly, I think the policy component is very important. I mean, if you look at agriculture, if you look at food insecurity now, close to, I think more than 6.5 million people are going to be food insecure over the coming year. And that's an important sector also for the European Union. We will have 250 million euro available to invest in food security and agricultural production. But it cannot, we cannot achieve the results that we want if we don't look at the policy side. We need to, government, together with development partners and the private sector, need to work together and see what is needed to get agriculture production growing. And often it's also about policy issues. It's about issues of access to land. It's about issue of, if you invest in Malawi in agriculture sector as an investor, you want to make sure that if you produce, that you're able to export. Otherwise, you're not going to invest. It's about access to capital. It's about access to markets. So all these issues are coming into play. And together, of course, with macroeconomic stability. If you don't have macroeconomic stability, it's not going to grow. I think it's as simple as that. And then, of course, there is also the issue of corruption and fraud. And let me say that I'm pleased to note that the government is making progress on public finance management reforms. I think it's very crucial to get the basics into place, to be able to do the bank reconciliation, to control your commitment. At the same time, there is still quite a bit of corruption taking place. If you take the newspapers and you go through the newspapers, you see many reports of corruption, small scale, large scale, and I think this is really affecting the situation in Malawi negatively. I mean, we are encouraged that the president is declaring that there will be no sacred cow and that he's going to.
But do you see that translating into real action? Yes, there have been pronouncements to that effect, but do you see that coming into action?
Well, I think there is progress. There is some progress on that, and we see some convictions. But I think we don't see enough in that respect. I think we see more stories of corruption than we see stories of sentencing. So I think more needs to be done, and I think it's also very important that the Anti-Corruption Bureau that has sufficient resources and can do its job. There are recent reports where, for instance, I think it was the Malawi Law Society that is questioning the operational independence of the Anti-Corruption Bureau. There are also reports of officers leaving the ACB, and of course that is of concern, because I do believe that an effective approach to tackle corruption really means that the ACB must be on the forefront of this and tackling this.
It is refreshing when I hear you talk about strengthening of the financial management system in Malawi, and that progress has been made by government. This earlier on had led to withdrawal of donor support, direct budget support to Malawi, especially because our financial management system was very weak. At the moment, do you think that with the direction we're taking, we'll get to a point where donors such as the EU would be confident in pumping in money even through the direct budget support?
Well, first of all, I think that the world is changing, and that budget support is never going to be as important as it's been in the past. Many countries are basically are not looking at budget support as the first option anymore, and but that doesn't mean that development partners are not contributing. I think they continue to contribute to Malawi. They only look at the most efficient and the most effective way of achieving results, and that I think every year, also last year, I think $1 billion is collectively being invested. So sometimes you hear those stories like donors are abandoning Malawi, which I don't think is correct. Donors are continue supporting Malawi. When it comes to the specific case of budget support for the European Union, for us, we will have a look at the end of the year. Our criteria are not changing. We have what we call eligibility criteria. They are related to macroeconomic stability. They relate to public finance management, and in general, we must have sufficient assurances that if we spend money via general budget support, that it's being spent in the right way.
Right. And there have also been concerns from donors that at 50 years plus, Malawi continues to still heavily rely on donor support. It continues to be a baby, so to say. What would be your comments on that?
Well, I think in general, donor dependency is not a good thing. And the president is very clear that he said that he wants to move to a trade and investment agenda, and I think, of course, that is supported by us as well, because Malawi, at the end of the day, should reach a path of sustainable economic growth, where it can generate the resources that is needed to cater for its own population. I think that is for sure. Of course, that will take some time to achieve that. And it's also important to note that, and I think that is from our perspective, but I think that is a joint wish with the government, is that we want to achieve the best results that we can have with our development cooperation, with our support. And it's also important to note that there are many crises in the world ongoing right now, and there are many areas where support is demanded. If you look at the Great Lake region, if you look at the Horn of Africa, if you look at the Sahel, if you look at other parts of the country, if you look at Syria, so there is quite a bit of competition for aid, which basically means that achieving results is becoming more important. Also because we have our own accountability systems. Our parliaments and our member states are also asking to show us that we achieve results. So that is why it is so important that we put that we as development partners, as European Union, that we support the government in its reform agenda, and and that the implementation of reform is also needed for us to achieve the results.
But where do you think Malawi has been getting it wrong all this while up to this moment? Is there anywhere you can point to?
Well, I think we discussed some of the areas where I think Malawi is facing challenges. I mentioned population growth. I mentioned, I think, the need for having the right policies in place. Take, for instance, the agricultural sector, which I think is quite topical given the food insecurity. I think over the last years there has been a tremendous emphasis on the farm input subsidy program. So most of the efforts of government in the agriculture sector was focused on the farm input subsidy program. At the same time, I think it is in areas like, for instance, extension, so training of farmers, but also areas like research, like access to credits, access to markets, and all the policy issues around that, I think might not have gotten the same amount of attention that was needed. So I think, and I'm picking up signals from government that they somehow want to rebalance that a bit. They want to have more emphasis for those areas like research and like training, like irrigation and like policy. And I think that is very important. And I personally believe that only where the government, the private sector, development partners, civil society work together and see how they can encourage agricultural production. I think that is when things can be done, and that's exactly what is being aimed for with the new alliance for food and nutrition security, where basically government, development partners, the private sector, and civil society work together. There is a number of commitments and that these are also policy commitments, like the Land Act, like the Agricultural Policy, like the Control of Goods Acts around export. I think these needs to be taken up and implemented, and I think then I think we create an environment where private sector will will invest and and once private sector start investing, it will lead to more production and it will lead to better food security and I think that is the way to go.
You talk of the alliance. I'm sure you have heard some controversies around it, that there are some views that maybe this is a way the West is coming in to kind of grab land from the locals. How do you respond to such concerns?
Well, I think there is a lot of misconceptions around the new alliance. I think what the new alliance basically is looking at government policy and government commitments at a certain stage. There are no new commitments under the new alliance. The new alliance is a way of organizing. The new alliance is trying to, is aiming to have the government, the private sector, development partner, and civil society together and find a way forward. But there is no new commitment under the new alliance. These were existing commitments that basically, I think the new alliance wants to help implement those commitments. So that is the way I see it.
Maybe the question would be, what is it for the West in it?
I find that a bit of a difficult question. What we want in our relationship with Malawi, we want Malawi to prosper. That is our main aim for our relationship with Malawi. I'm not so much aware of any other agenda that we have. We have a strong relationship with Malawi, and we will have a strong relationship with Malawi. But our interest in Malawi is a Malawi where people will be able to take care of their families. Will be able to send their children to school, will have access to public health, and will generate prosperity. That is basically what our interest is. We have no other interests.
Right. Let's talk about food security. The government has just said 6.5 million Malawians will face hunger this year and is appealing to donors and well-wishers to come in and help out. Would the EU come in?
Yes, we would. We have so far already close to €4.5 million contributed, mainly in the form of cash transfers. So that people are getting every month an amount of money to buy food, but also to help them to rebuild their assets, to buy a chicken, to buy a goat, to buy these kind of things, what we call resilience, to build up the resilience. So that's one contribution, and I'm expecting over the coming days another announcement of quite a substantial contribution. And that will be around €11 million. But this so far is a kind of tentative amount. But over the coming days, I expect another announcement of our contribution.
Right. Coming to media, which is really of interest.
Can I just add?
Yes.
Can I just add on that? Because our contribution to food insecurity is manifold. So part of it is the humanitarian angle that I was just talking about. So we have €4.5 million already are being implemented, and there will be another €11 million that we are going to implement. But our program of €250 million for the coming 5 years is basically aiming at agricultural production and food security and nutrition security. So we are working on the root causes to ensure that these kind of disasters will not happen or will not happen to this extent. So and I think that at the end of the day is for me is a more important contribution. Of course, the other is also important in the short term, but the medium to longer term, we need to invest in the agricultural sector. We need to help government putting the right policies in place. And make sure that the potential of Malawi, agricultural potential of Malawi, is being utilized to the fullest extent. That's what we're aiming for.
Right. Now let's come to the media issue as we're going towards the end of this interview, which is really of interest. You heard during our interaction earlier that the managing director was appealing for support from the EU for the media in Malawi. Yes, there is media freedom, we enjoy this freedom, but he is appealing for more support from the EU. What's your take on that?
Well, we believe that the media is playing a crucial crucial role in Malawi in informing the citizens, informing the public of what's going on, and it also has an important role to play, like it's being played in every democracy, functioning democracy. So the media are playing an important role, and I agree with you that the media environment in Malawi is relatively free, and that the media can play its role. At the same time, there are also challenges. And there are also challenges. When I talk with representatives from the media, there is challenges in terms of training, in terms of capacity building. I'm sure there is challenges in terms of equipment. There's challenges in terms of linking up with the wider media community outside Malawi. As EU, we are committed to the media in Malawi. Let me say that first. We have an important program, governance program for the coming 5 years, and in that program, domestic accountability is an important element. So we believe that long-term development in Malawi will also depend on the extent to which people are informed, and to which people are holding duty bearers to account. And as that is an important objective of our governance program, and as the media is playing an important role in strengthening domestic accountability, we will support the media. How we're going to do that, so the exact modalities of our support, I think that needs to be seen, and that will also be the subject of consultations, including consultations with the media, but also in consultation with our other development partners.
Right. Ambassador, as we come towards the end, do you have any final remarks?
Well, first of all, thank you for the interview. I believe that indeed this year we will see more on the 40 years EU Malawi. We are planning events in the various parts of the country. We will go we have been already to Zomba, where we had the opening. We will have an event in Lilongwe around the investment forum in October that we are supporting. We'll also going to have an event in the north up to Karonga, where we will, and also there we will have quite a bit of interaction with the media. Every time we will meet with the media group, the media how do you call that?
The media clubs.
The media clubs, and so I believe that in summary, when it comes to the role of the media as well, we have been working closely with the media in the past, and we will continue working closely with the media, and I'm really looking forward to the second part of this year, where we will continue celebrating the 40-year relationship.
Yeah, and I know you have already said your final remarks, but maybe final from me would be your comment on the vote referendum in Britain. What's your take on that?
Well, the referendum is something for the British people to decide. I mean, our position is quite clear. We hope that that the UK will remain part of the European Union. We believe that the European Union is stronger with the UK inside.
Right. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for being with us.
You're most welcome.